to the Innovation Podcast, where we delve into the latest insights and trends in innovation. In today's episode, we'll explore the fascinating concept of vibration and its impact on human thoughts, emotion, and behavior, particularly in the context of corporate high-performance programs. We have with us Jan, as always, to explore the concept and break it down for us. And you have me, Hanaa, who is going to realize just how much she doesn't know. On this note, how are you doing today, Jan?
Fantastic, Hanaa. It's always a delight and pleasure to be here with you. I love doing these podcasts. And I think we have an awesome topic to start with, which I think is going to be very enriching because I'm very passionate about bridging, using the power of science, which I believe I'm well versed in, and translating that into sort of the business world. And I think we have a really good session set up for this conversation today.
All right, Jan. So talk to us about vibration, because Albert Einstein said, if I'm rightly quoting it, everything has vibration. So what do we understand from this?
Well, yeah, I think, everything is vibrating. We're talking about the man who invented quantum theory and who invented relativity, right? And so in this particular instance, we're looking at quantum theory from the Einsteinian perspective. And what that means in plain English is that everything is a vibrating particle, essentially a wave particle duality in quantum physics. And what that means is it can be described using something called the Schrödinger equation as having a vibration. So the reason why I use that kind of technical scientific language is to help people understand that it's not a woo-woo, oh, everything's a vibration, bro. Like, yeah, but actually, literally, it is a vibration. It literally is in our standard model of the scientific worldview that we have based on quantum mechanics. So what that then also allows is not just to look at particles, but we can also take that principle to look at humans. And in particular, when we're looking at innovation, right, we're looking at the dynamics, not just of the individual, but the dynamics between individuals. How we can envision one human, or particularly in our language, one leadapreneur as a vibrating particle, and how that person is interacting with the other people around them generates a creative potential. And so there were different ways in which those different vibrations interact will determine essentially many things, but in the language of what we're talking about, their innovation capability. So useful ways kind of, to think about that, to kind of make it more tangible is, let's imagine a football team, right? Every player on that team has a particular uniqueness, right? And we could describe that as a vibration. And that's actually an important thing to understand through the Schrödinger equation. That is what makes you unique. Your vibration is what makes you unique. Everyone has a unique vibrating signature. And the challenge then becomes, as we know in sport, is how do you arrange those players to be able to win the match, right? So in a similar way, how do we get the innovation outcomes that we seek? We need to organize the people. And one interesting way of thinking about how do you do the organizing, right? How do you organize the organizing is the vibration that they have, in particular their emotional vibration, right? So people have different emotional vibrations. I don't think it's always the case of saying you want to have like a positive vibration. I think that's a bit, generally, yes, of course, that's true, but it's a bit naive, right? Sometimes you need to have a little bit of, you have to be critical. Sometimes you have to be a little bit harsh, judgmental, firm. Innovation isn't always about, sunshine and sticky notes. It's sometimes about difficult conversations as well. So it's really just about understanding how to ensure effective outcomes by aligning around emotional vibration.
Okay, that's interesting to say that, organizing the organization. And that's something that you do all the time when you're doing our innovation programs. But what we also come across is, for example, when you're meeting our participants for the first time, some of them are not at the same frequency as how we are. Now, sometimes they do get to that frequency and sometimes they do not. So how do you bring about getting people to do their best, perform very well at that frequency that you want them to?
Yeah, that's a great question, right? And there's an element there of what we can bring, and then there's an element there of what the individual can bring. And I think what Leadapreneur provides is a structured performance environment. And what part of what we do is we provide structure and organizing around certain vibrational characteristics. So, for example, in one of our programs, Battlefield BAU, which is about delivering individualized, KPI-relevant, agile innovation projects, right? We use the language of the warrior. You are a warrior fighting to build your better world, and you're going to need those emotional qualities of a warrior: decisiveness, leaping into action, courage, bravery, integrity, honor, resilience in the face of adversities. These are qualities that are not intellectual, right? Resilience is not an idea. Resilience is you being able to handle stress and setbacks and keep bouncing back and keep pushing forward. So what we're doing in that sense is we're saying, for you to be successful in the innovation journey, you must express the qualities of a warrior, the vibrations of a warrior. And we provide a structure around that, because the vibration isn't just one vibration, it's a complex matter, right? So if you imagine, for example, when we play music, in a rock and roll band, you're going to have a guitarist, you're going to have a drummer, you're going to have a bassist, you're going to have a vocalist. All those vibrations are harmonizing to produce a song. In a similar sense, and so it's about connecting vibrations together and organizing them into a synchronicity and essentially symphony. And so in order to be able to do that, though, you need to have a certain amount of structure. You can't just say, I'm going to turn up and do whatever I want, because it's unlikely to achieve you're unlikely to be able to achieve the innovation outcomes that you seek because you lack the disciplined structuring that you will need to maintain your vibration, because things are going to put your vibration off. You're going to have adversity. You're going to have challenges. Things will go wrong, setbacks. So I think what we bring as leaderpreneurs is that structured environment and then the invitation to become, that vibration, the warrior, the pathfinder, the strategos, the sage, right? These different vibrations. But also, at some sense, as critically, that individual themselves must decide how great do they dare to be. And I think that's an important part of being a leaderpreneur, right? There's so many high potentials out there, but it's rare to see high performance, right? People say that they're busy. People say, but you're not busy and you're not special. You have 24 hours. I have 24 hours. You're not more busy than I am. And everyone is doing their best. So the question is, how bright do you want to burn and how much do you desire to push yourself forward? And that's an inequality that an individual must awaken within themselves. And ultimately, what's going to drive that in a sustainable manner is your desire to build your better world. That is what pushes you forward. You have a vision and a desire to bring that vision into reality. And so you're going to keep pushing forward in the face of adversity to realize that, make that dream come true. And so there's this combination of us providing the environment, the game, essentially the structured game environment, and then the participants choosing to play the game and create the outcomes that they want to see.
So that was you explaining how you sort of do that within your innovation programs. But how about your own team at Leadapreneur? How are you creating a high vibration environment? And as you said, it doesn't have to be high all the time, but how do you maintain that good vibes most of the time?
Mm-hmm. Well, Leadapreneur is a very digitally distributed business, right? We don't have a core office. We've worked with some people for years. We've only met them maybe once, right? So we have quite a unique setup compared to what most people experience as traditional work environments where you're in a physical office meeting people. So with that in mind, what I think is a fundamental transition is that trust drives everything. I am not going to be able to micromanage and check on everybody if they're doing their work or not. I just don't have the time. And I also don't have I literally don't have the capability, right? I can't go there. I can't see it, right? And so so what I kind of focus on is, how do we get people to care? Because if we care, then we're going to go and figure out the right thing. And if we're not getting it right, then we care enough to have the conversations that we need to adjust our course so that we can start getting it more right again, right? Care is essentially at the heart of the matter, which drives engagement. So what I really focus on in my leadership role is finding people who care and protecting that care environment and nurturing that and welcoming it and inviting people to care. Because when you care, you will then find the things you need to do to get on with it. And really care is what drives autonomy, right? How do we trust that people are autonomous and not relying on being told what to do every day? It's because they care, and so they'll figure out what they need to do. So I think that care is really, really important. And then I think there's an element there of going back before I said of just choosing to trust, right? It's a choice at the end of the day. It's like I have to choose to trust the team that work will get done and we're going to be successful and we'll come through, we're going through, right? And that trust is very profound, because if they don't get it right, then we will have really big problems, right? So I think there's an element there of trusting, which is much deeper than exists in organizations. Most organizations move at the speed of their bureaucratic process, which doesn't trust. And so that creates a certain approach, but it's very slow. It's not very flexible. So by Leadapreneur, by having people, creating a culture where we care, we are operating with a sense of trust. And then I think then we push ourselves to the higher standards. I mean, you know me, I'm always saying we can do more, we can try this, change this, change this. I think that we have that sense of excellence being its own reward. And I think we've seen just how much we've grown in the last few years, right? Look at our website today. I think it's really exciting and really just the beginning of the creative vision that we have there about what it can become. So it's kind of those elements there of caring, of trusting, and then that innate incitement and desire for excellence. I think we're all in our own ways in the team individuals who want to be at our best because that's what we want to be, right? And of course, sometimes we work a little bit more, a little bit less, whatever. I understand that's variable. But in general, we want to be there and be at our best because that's what we enjoy. And so that kind of creates an environment, I think, where we can really shine. And I think we really outperform given the size of the team that we have. I think we deliver really remarkable results.
On the note of, the team and them trying to achieve, not trying, but, always pursuing excellence, I have a little of an anecdote to share that just happened like literally minutes ago before this podcast recording. So I was sort of reviewing someone's work and then my team's work, and then I got a little bit off tangent. I would say I got a bit angry, and then my vibrational frequency went a bit low, negative there. And I was like, I told you not to do this. And I told you that, and that's the thing I was doing. And then my team member corrected it, and then it was good. It was perfect. And I replied, yeah, that's perfect. And then she replied back, I think she's going to be listening to this later on. And then she replied back with, please be patient with me. I'm going to master everything by the end of this and that. So, and then, there was two reactions I could have chosen here. One to be like, continue taking that authoritative tone of being like, yeah, okay, let's see, because people will keep making mistakes and so on. Or just acknowledging what she's doing. And I replied back saying, I definitely believe in you. And I recognize that moment of her trying to continue being her best, right? She's trying to pursue excellence. She couldn't get it done right one time, but she did it again and she got it right the second time. And I think, that's what we're looking for people, right? People who are always trying their best. Now, how does someone else look for people who care? For example, a company hiring, how do they find people who care? Because coming for an interview, and we've had so many interviews recently, right? Coming for an interview, you would think this person cares for you, but then they don't. So how do you make that differentiation?
Yeah, it's like such a challenging question, isn't it? And it's easy also to believe that someone cares, right? But as in, I want to believe in them. I want them to believe that they're caring, and they show that they're caring a little bit. So then I'm like, oh yeah, they definitely can, right? So I think ultimately for me, I don't think you can actually tell that in the beginning, because the framework I've been building around care is it's about what you've done. So I break down care into 3 metrics: time, money, and repetition. What you care about is where you spend your time, it's where you spend your money, and what you repeatedly do, right? You keep coming back to. And that, if you tell me, if I can see where you spend all your time, where you spend all your money, and what you repeatedly do, I will know you, and I will know what you care about. So I think there's an invitation to care, but that individual must then turn up, right, and demonstrate that they're caring. And so obviously for an employee, maybe it's not so much in terms of the money factor, but certainly it's the time and how they're using that time to create the outcomes, right? Because care materialized itself as a better world. You're making things better, right? You're not just administrating a process. You are, by caring, you're being present. It's not just that you're simply engaged. It's that your care is a higher state of consciousness. When you're caring, you're connected to the outcomes. And what you're saying is that it's important for you. It's relevant to who you are, right? And so I think we have to give people the invitation to demonstrate that they care. Now, what we can then ask is demonstrate where you have cared in the past and what you've done around that. That can be one factor there, but it's always a bit tricky. So I'm kind of leaning more towards a sense of giving people the chance to demonstrate themselves and see what they can do, right? And that's a classic sort of 2-3 month period of onboarding and getting people in, right? And you can see quite quickly what goes on there.
I was just referring back to my list of questions. Okay. So how do you see this concept of vibration, human resonance? How do you see that evolving, especially in the context of innovation programs, high performance programs?
It's going to be essential because it's going to be the factor that determines the overall creative capability, and actually beyond that, the adaptive capability of organizations. So I think, to make it tangible, when we do something like the Myers-Briggs, right, or the 16 personalities, right, these kind of personality quizzes, those are essentially diagnosing a flavor of your vibration. If you get architect or if you get whatever the others, that's giving you that's telling you your vibration, right? But in a very simplified manner. And so we're kind of at a very early stage in that. And since innovation is inherently a team sport, it's about being able to collaborate. So it's not just one person's vibration, it's how are all the vibrations vibrating together. And when you're able to achieve that to a certain level of success, you'll achieve what's called resonance, which is where the whole structure is on the same page. And it's one of the most exciting things in the world to be on a team or in a community that hits that high performing resonance state. It's just freaking awesome. Like, oh man. And you don't care. You don't care how hard it is. It doesn't matter. It's just you're really flying and you're doing something. You're so passionate and you live it and breathe it and sleep it every day. And it's extraordinary. And it's a real pleasure and gift to be able to experience those situations. So yeah, it's hard, but guess what? Life is hard. It's not. And I think that's really sort of what we're going to see is, it's this idea of hardness is irrelevant, because what matters, everything is hard. If you don't do anything, it's still hard. Right. And I think this is where the great illusion is people focus too much on how hard something is rather than they focus on what do they want to create. What do you want to be? Where do you want to go? Because what that compels you to do is to step up into greatness and to grow and transform yourself in a very profound manner. And I think that is really where we see these creative environments that can deliver superior outcomes, right? Look at Sam Altman and OpenAI, right? What is it? A bunch of guys and ladies, 50, 100, a couple of hundred people, right? Create extraordinary technology. I mean, literally magic. It's basically magic. It's basically magic, right? Just the other day, I was watching with my partner the SpaceX launch of the new Starship, which they managed to get into orbit. And it's just incredible, right? And so these organizations are operating in states of consciousness that are far superior to their competition, right? Far superior, far superior. And so that is why they're so innovative. That is why they're so creative. And that's why they're so far ahead of everybody else. And crucially, that's also why it's so hard for everyone else to catch up. To replicate the success of SpaceX or OpenAI isn't simply a question of putting lots of money into AI or rockets. The money is trivial. The money is secondary. Because the really, really hard work is building the culture. The really hard work is sustaining that culture and getting it to a point of resonance and then ultimately what can be called criticality, where you can have massive leaps and breakthroughs, right? And one of the main reasons why many traditional bureaucratic organizations today are so slow, are so inflexible and challenged in a creative sense is because they're not able to achieve these states of resonance and consciousness. And as we go more and more into this innovation age and this age of AI, achieving those states of consciousness is going to be really important, because without them, you're not going to be able to produce the ideas, the products, the services, the improvements, whatever it might be that your organization needs to keep up. So I think where this leads us to is that, every consciousness vibrates at its own frequency, and competitive advantage is going to be fundamentally aligned with your state of consciousness of your organization. And organizations that can generate superior states of consciousness will have vastly superior outcomes. And I think that's going to be over the next few decades. And as we go deeper into Industry 4.0, that's going to be one of the radically deep transitions as we move away from the management bureaucracy paradigm, right? We have the whole paradigm of management essentially since the 50s is set up around being an administrator of the bureaucratic system. And that is effective. It's nothing to criticize. It is what it is. It works. But it is not going to yield the organizations of the future. They're going to be run on they already are being run on an innovation ecosystem structure. And when you're thinking in terms of innovation ecosystems, you're going to arrive at the language of consciousness and vibration. And how do you organize people to be able to interact in such a way that they can deliver really exciting innovation outcomes quickly, reliably, and effectively?
Man, there were two things that you've mentioned just now, and I mean, so many things here, but you mentioned about often people get stuck into that thought of it's too hard instead of going on to create something. I think that was really powerful there. Could you elaborate a bit more of it? Because that's something we do every day, isn't it? I mean, I remember when before having a child, I kept on thinking it's just too hard. It's really hard. I can never become a mother because it's just too freaking hard. And now that I am, okay, you're doing it. And similarly, even for work, I think I had similar thoughts before we started doing the avatar builder. I was not in the first team, and then because in my mind it was like, this is so hard. It's just too complicated. I don't want to get involved right now. But eventually I was involved, and it was not that hard. So, and that's just me. I'm sure like everyone around us having the same thoughts. So how do we go on about it?
Well, there's so many perspectives on this, and I think where I can be useful is just to. You need to have a really long, hard look at your soul and your spirit and say, what is this all about? What is this all about? What is my life really about? Is it about just being easy and comfortable? Fine. Then you make that decision. You follow that. Be easy and comfortable. But with ease and comfort, not come greatness. Doesn't come being a mother. Doesn't come being the leader. Doesn't come being the one who can go out and create and change things. So there are consequences to the decisions that you make about who you wish to be and how you wish to live. And as you come into adulthood, a lot of adulthood is about accepting the consequences of the decisions you have made and that they are real. So if wants to sit there and say it's hard, fine, do it. It is hard. You're right. And then you want to give up because you're too busy. Do that too. But then that's who you become. Someone who life is just a bit too difficult for you. You're a bit too fragile and you just give up too easily. And that's your decision matrix. And you'll justify it all the time to yourself why it's unfair and it's hard for you. I mean, you particularly are more special in your suffering than everyone else because you are the victim and nobody understands you. And you can tell yourself all of this. And what you will focus a lot on is being right. And I think that's where we see the real trap, which is the ego. The ego focuses on feeding on itself by being right about things. See, I told you I couldn't do it. I wasn't ready for it. See, I told you I was too busy. See, I told you I failed. I was right. I was right. I was right. And I think that's ultimately just going to be a quality of your character and your spirit. But within all of us does lie the potential for something much greater, and to rise to our own glory, really, and to envision something much more for ourselves. Now, that can be in many different ways. It could be to be a great mum, right? Or great dad. It could be to be a great leader. It could be to be a great community team player, right? Whatever it is, I'm not saying that it's a monodimensional sit at the top of the pyramid thing. That I'm not saying that. I'm saying look to yourself. You are here for a reason. The Creator has created you, and you have gifts. And I think it's to not be excellent is to dishonor the gift of life itself. And I think that's, and I really very strongly believe this, because this is the ultimate source of the truth in one's reality. It is how you choose to honor the gift that you have. And yeah, of course, I'm not saying you can be an awesome high performer every day, all day. I like to lie in and sleep, right? I like to do these things, sure. But I believe that there's a discipline and a spirit and an act of service in choosing to be at your best and to dare to grow and to have courage. And especially as you get older, to step ever more into fear and to see what actually is this thing that you're so afraid of. Because most people don't even have a good story of failure. Most people don't have a good story of where their fear really defeated them and something truly terrible happened to them. We run away from these little fantasies in our head that never materialize themselves. And so what we're really doing is just tyrannizing ourselves with our imagination. And so in amongst all of that, and I think that's in a part of what it's about, listening to the deeper call inside of yourself and rising up to that and serving that by saying, I choose to be great as I can every day. And I will do that every day because that's my act of service to life and to creation itself. And I think it's that profound sense of spirituality that drives that. It's not, oh, I want to make lots of money. It's not, oh, I want to be really famous. Those are factors, and those are fun, and those are important. I like making money. I like having some fame and attention, for sure. Yeah, cool. But they're not the profound drivers of human spirit. And so I think what we don't do enough today is we don't take ourselves seriously enough. We don't recognize this in ourselves, and we give ourselves too many excuses that result in weakness, and that weakness results in consequences that cascade through our lives to the point where we suddenly look back and we're like, why did I waste my life on all of this? I could have been so much more. And I think that would maybe be the saddest thing of all.
That was such a profound explanation on that topic there, Jan. So while we come to an end shortly, why don't you share a moment of things you found really hard, but you went ahead and did it anyway because you cared?
Just yesterday.
It cannot be Leadapreneur, by the way.
Oh, it can't be Leadapreneur.
Oh, but okay, if you want to take that example, sure.
Well,
let's go.
Let's go with Leadapreneur. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, yesterday I ran the first Digital Wonderland program with a new style of going to storytelling, which is a radical departure from traditional training programs in the sense of a training program teaches you something in theory, right? Here's some slides, here's a theory, here's a framework, learn it, and that's it. And this time round, I went for telling the story of Ada going into the digital wonderland to defeat the demon of ignorance, right? And moving through the interesting places such as the disruptor radar, the theater of tomorrow, to the forge of creation. And that was, for me, very, not scary. I was certainly very nervous. And I can tell when I'm at sort of my edge, because I can feel in me this breath attack where I'm like, that's it. I'm just going to tell everyone I'm not doing it. We're just going to cancel it. And that'll be it, right? And I want to kind of run away from it, right? I definitely feel that. But I've experienced now enough with myself to know to just let it breathe, come in and out, not to put too much pressure on myself. I think it's that delicate balance of putting pressure and challenging myself, but not overwhelmingly so. And what really helped me about that in the past was learning to just that I'm enough, I'm good enough, and it's going to be okay. And that one way or another, I'll be figuring it out. So doing that workshop experience, that 4-hour experience yesterday was, for me, really quite it took a lot of energy to kind of bring that together. And that was a big leap for me. But I did it because I want to advance Leadapreneur forward, and I want to take us to that next level of providing something that's truly exciting and interesting. And this was the right step to go and do that. So that's why and also, to be honest, like it becomes a habit. Like you just get on with it. Just give it a go. Boom, let's go. Let's try it. Boom, boom, boom. Like it's one after the other. It's not like you can't make everything this sort of mega epic life-changing decision. It's not. It's just a 4-hour workshop with 3 people. Let's go and get on with it, right? And so I think that there's also that attitude in there as well, which I think is just very relieving, which is just, do you want to do it? Yes or no? If no, shut up and go home. If yes, get on with it. That's it. Get on with it and go. And that power of action, it's a famous quote from Goethe, like whatever you dream of, begin it. Action has boldness, has greatness within it. It's in the acting, it's in the doing that we materialize ourselves into reality and bring forth a better world. So let's get on with doing that rather than being whiny about, oh, it's so difficult, it's so hard, right? Like life is hard and then you die. That's it. That's your story. Everything else is a question of how much you dare to do something differently and how great you chose to be. So I just see this now when there's this sort of mediocrity. It's like, oh, it's hard. I'm busy. Yeah. Okay. Then you're just average and you're just sitting there, and that's fine. And you can be average, but
why so salty? You're just average.
Yeah, because I think that you're kind of letting yourself down. You're kind of believing your own bullshit too much. People want to be right. I am too busy. I am too important. I'm too this and that. So therefore I won't try. I won't dare. I won't care. That's what I'm salty about. You don't choose to care. You deny yourself to care. That's actually the real issue. You're not having the courage to listen to your heart, to truly care and do the difficult thing. And the whole point of Leadapreneur is to build the people who can build the better worlds for humanity. We need 1%, 80 million people to be out there building the better worlds for humanity in a decentralized, autonomous innovation ecology. And I don't want to waste my time working with people who are not up for that. I think if you want to be average and you want to do that thing, go whine in the corner and go somewhere else. Don't come to Leadapreneur. And the more clearly I see this, the more I think we have to be decisive in articulating that. And okay, fine, 98% of people don't join. I'm okay with that. It's about redefining what the elite means. And the elite is not about how much money you have. It's about the capability of your consciousness. That's the new elite. That's the new 1%. And your consciousness is driven by your heart, how much you care and how much you're willing to get on with it, despite the adversities that you face. So many people out there face such extraordinarily difficult situations every day, and they do remarkable things. And those are the people I'm interested in supporting and enabling. And you can be wherever you are. But do you have that quality of character and spirit to step up and dare and push yourself to do more because you care and you want to be more? Or are you someone who's actually quite comfortable and said, oh, it's just a bit difficult. Yeah, I can't quite fit that into my calendar scheduling. Oh, okay, it's going to be difficult. I'm going to have to do extra work. Oh, and then you're already choosing to be a certain kind of person. And if you're already committing yourself to a certain pathway, because as we said, looping back to the beginning of the conversation, that will be your resonance, right? The whiner, the cynic, the doubter, right? All these roles that materialize themselves, but we don't realize we become that. We become that. And the question is, do you want to be that? Do you actually really want to be? So that's, I think it's like ultimately that sort of that call of consciousness where we ask ourselves, how great do we dare to be? And what is it that we're trying to do it about? And those are going to be answered in the language of care.
That's such a wonderful note to end the podcast, Jan. How great do you dare to be? How great do you dare to be vibrating at a higher frequency? It's something that we talked about earlier. How much do you want to care, which you define as spending more time, money, and repetition into doing things that you care about. So I think this has been a wonderful conversation. Thank you for being with us, and I look forward to our next conversation next week.
Thank you, Hanaa.